Nintendo's most black sheep console was loved by many and hated by everyone who never played it. But how did they do in the shooter department? I am the Game Collector and this is Second Opinion Games, and today we look at the shmups of the Wii U.
Second Opinion Games.
Dealbreaker, a tablet game that was quickly ported over to the Wii U's eShop with the graphics of a Super Nintendo and taking up a very small portion of the screen. Now, because it was a tablet game, you have no real control over your ship here. It locks onto just like little tiny areas, so you just have to tap left and right with the analog stick, but no actual analog controls. If you try to use the D-pad, it will not work. Also, what doesn't seem to be here is interesting power-ups. Instead, you just constantly fire forward and blow up spaceships that are flying around in one of the most boring and awkward games I think I ever played. This is just, it's darn right bad and lazy is what it was, but then again, this game was just $1. Now, it did have a little lock-on feature that you could lock on the targets and blow them up. I think everyone's best staying far away from this unless you absolutely have to have it for $1 on your tablet. Ice Cream Surfer is a horizontal cute-em-up. That means the game is completely cute on nearly every level as you surf on an ice cream cone. Actually, there's quite a few different characters to choose from here, and each of them have their own strengths and weaknesses, and their bombs don't really seem to do that much at all. I really love how the bosses are so inventive here, and the graphics are cute and colorful, but again, this seems to be one of those tablet games that was quickly ported over to the Wii U because the Wii U just didn't have many games on the console, and people were really hungry for new things to download and play on the system, and sadly the games just didn't come. At least they didn't come very quickly. However, the controls on this game are far better than Dealbreaker's, but that's really not saying much. Also, the power-ups don't come at you as fast as probably should in order to keep the game very interesting. I recommend you take a pass on this one as well. Cosmophony, for all those people that love the rhythm-based shooters. Now, you don't have free-range control over your ship here. It's locked into a certain path, so tapping left or right on the analog stick will push you in that direction and lock you into place. You could also use the left and right bumpers to lock into place, which is something that I prefer doing because I can tap them a little bit quicker. And quicker you're gonna have to be because of the frantic pace of this game. You're gonna die repeatedly just because you can't tap the buttons fast enough. And you have to shoot down the right amount of little triangle things to shoot. The graphics here are fairly scarce, but honestly, it's all about the music and the terrific beats and some of the crazy, trippy visuals going on. They're nothing too impressive, but if you decide to take a whole lot of drugs before playing, then this will blow your freaking mind. However, this is really not a type of shooter that I'm into at all, and it's way too difficult for me. And again, it seems to be a tablet game, so I'm gonna definitely pass on this one. Full Blast is our next game, and this is something I could really cut my teeth into. We have hard rockin' guitar playing on a 10-second loop. So you might want to just turn the volume all the way down for this one, because all you're going to hear is explosions left and right, and the same explosion sound effect every single time in that, and that guitar that gets kind of annoying pretty darn quick. There's little tiny dialogue boxes of cutscenes in between each of the levels, but it's no William Shakespeare. It's just literally the bare minimum to push the story forward, and it's not even done in a comical way. The graphics look similar to something you might see on the PlayStation 1, which honestly I don't think are that bad, but the levels are just too darn long here. I played for 40 minutes straight, and I continuously saw the same level just repeating itself many freaking times. Eventually, you do see other levels, and you even encounter boss battles that can be quite challenging, but never actually give you too much of a challenge. You have a life bar here, and you could take a crap ton of hits before you eventually die, So I think I died like one time total, and I played through almost to the very end of the game. This means it's just too darn easy for anyone who loves shooters, and it's too bland for everyone who's trying to get into them. So it's really not good for anyone, and I think, again, this was a tablet game. Dang it, we're seeing an awful lot of those. That brings us to Ghostblade. This one is definitely not a tablet game. Instead, it was a remake of a Dreamcast game. They basically just made the graphics all nice and pretty. You could choose from one of 3 super hot chicks. Each one has their own power-ups and their own bombs, and the screen will be full of bullets nearly all the time, because this is a bullet hell shooter, and bullet hell it is. Trying to weave your ship through all the bullets that would be on the screen at one time is nearly impossible, especially if you're playing on the hardest level of gameplay. This thing is just plain sick. Now, some of the bullets can actually be shot out of the sky. Some of the bullets also go away when you destroy the thing that shot them, but other bullets, like the pink bullets that are coming after you, well, they're always going to be on the screen. Also, to make the screen completely a cluster F is all the stars and points that are going on here, which means this is also one of the games with a ridiculous high score. By the time you defeat level 1, you'll be something like 40 quadrillion points, which I'm not even sure is a real word. Now, this is a really fun game, and it was definitely great on the Dreamcast, and the Wii U just made it a little bit better because you could actually see the bullets slightly more clearly. But because this was just an HD remake, it's not something I really wanted for my Wii U. Nano Assault Neo is probably one of the prettiest games on the Wii U. It's kind of like Mario Galaxy mixed with Smash TV, shrunken down to the molecular level, where every little tiny creature on a cell is trying to rip you apart. Even freaking water bears are firing their guns at you. I didn't even know water bears had guns, but man, this is pretty darn creative. It can also be found on the 3DS, where you can play it in 3D, and yeah, I have it for that, and it plays great. You could even find it on the Nintendo Switch, but by far it plays the best on the Wii U. I absolutely love the graphics, the sound effects are terrific, the music is hopping, and I love all of the power-ups that you could find, and they come darn quick too, so you never feel too underpowered. Also, when you defeat a level, it shows you where the exit is, and if you just weren't paying any attention to where the exit was, well, you're probably not going to find it in time, because you only have 30 seconds to make it off this cell and blast off to the next one. Now, it's all about the high score here, and sadly, they shut down all of the online features with the high score, so you don't really know which one of your friends you beat in this game, but face it, if you're still playing the Wii U, you probably don't have many friends. This is one I could strongly get behind. However, it's not really a shooter. This is an overhead twin-stick shooter. Even if it has all of the elements there, it's still not the shooter that we needed on the Wii U. Star Ghost, Nintendo's masterpiece. This is also found on the Nintendo Switch, and it plays exactly the same on both consoles. You're continuously shooting at almost all times. If you happen to hold back on the analog stick, well, then you will activate your tractor beam, sucking in all the power-ups and all of the little blue orb currency that there is in the game. Now, the blue orb currency is quite important here, because it's sort of like a gambling system. You see, you only have one life, and you could buy another if you happen to die for 50 blue orbs. Also, if you spend your blue orbs, well, then you're not going to get the high score when you complete this game, because actually trying to beat the game is nearly impossible, so just play to see how far you could darn well get. Also, there's these giant boss battles with the Sentinels. These things are ridiculously difficult, so make sure you have a couple of extra lives on standby just to defeat them alone. You also have to manage your power-ups too, because if you're continuously firing, your rapid fire is always ticking down, and so is your spread shot, which is really important. Also, it's sporting dynamic levels here, so every time I play the game, no two playthroughs are alike. In this run, I've been seeing tons of stuff that I've never even seen the game throw at me before. There's also some bad power-ups that will take your weapons offline completely, which could lead the game over really darn quick. This is a great shoot 'em up with one tiny flaw. It takes a Flappy Bird's design to the game's controls, where you have to tap the A button in order to hold a steady path. This is awkward and off-putting to some people. I personally love it, but if this isn't the thing you could wrap your head around, well, I have just one more game to sell you. Ballpoint Universe Infinite. Now, the first time I played this game, I actually kind of hated it. The controls in the menus were so darn awkward, I could just not get the hang of them. However, after a really long time of trying, I finally did figure it out, and then my mind was blown. They have dynamic levels here that change nearly every time you get into the game, which is basically just an infinite loop. The whole thing is trying to collect ink blocks that power up your ship in different ways, and there are tons of different ways to customize your ship. You could set up with all machine guns, or one giant blade on top and a machine gun on the bottom, or maybe two giant blades. And there's lots more to the game than just this. There's a risk-reward thing with actually trying to get close enough to destroy the enemies and pick up the ink blocks, because they go away really quickly. And every time you play the game, it auto-saves with your current upgrades and your extra ink blots, meaning that you get stronger every time you play it, so the very next time you go out, you get a little bit farther. Now, this is the type of addictive gameplay that will have you glued to your seat playing it for hours on end, because, my god, just trying to slowly level up and find new ways of playing through this game is freaking genius. Also, the art design is unbelievably creative. The graphics might not be the best that I've ever seen, but this is definitely the most addictive shooter I think I ever played. But of course, that's just my opinion. Thanks for watching. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I had a great time making it, and the Wii U really wasn't the best in the shooter department. It didn't get a whole lot of attention outside of those tablet resellers, so sadly there was a lot of those. But Star Ghost, Ghost Blade, and Ballpoint Infinite Universe are some of the best games I think I played on the system. Nano Assault, oh my god, that is just unbelievably fun when you want a good twin stick shooter. And I want to know what your favorite shooters were for the Wii U, or maybe for some of the other consoles. Honestly, when I want to play a really good shooter, I kind of turn to the GameCube first and foremost, and I already did a video on that if you want to try and find it on my channel. So until later, I will see you again, guys.